Hello, my name is Michael Swinford. I'd like to invite you to this edition of the Veteran's Voice. We have a very special guest with us today, and we'll be back to introduce her and what she's all about. We'll be back in right after this. Welcome back to the Veteran's Voice. As I said, we had a very special guest with us today. Carol Livingston is a service officer here in Paducah, and she works for the KDVA, or Kentucky Department of Veteran Affairs. So Carol, welcome to the set today. Glad to have you with us.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
Over the months, I've come to know you and respect you for the work you do. Whatever made you decide to get into this type of occupation?
Well, I am an Air Force veteran. I served 8.5 years, and I was interested in finding a career that worked with veterans, where I'd be working and helping veterans. I believe there are a lot of benefits out there that those that have served honorably have earned, and not everybody's aware of the benefits that may be entitled to them. So KDVA hired me, and I have found this job very rewarding in assisting veterans and their families in obtaining the VA benefits they're entitled to.
Why do you think that they're not aware of the benefits?
That's various reasons. It's a good question. There are a lot of them from World War II up to the present. Some of them, they get out of the service, they may have a bad taste about the military or the government, and they don't seek it. The World War II, the Korea, the Vietnam, when they got out of service, they might not have had anybody there as they transition back into the civilian world to inform them of what benefits they may be entitled to. With the more recent wars, the Gulf War, Desert Storm, Iraqi veterans, Afghanistan, there's a push to try and change that. And as they're transitioning from the military back to the civilian world, there are military folks that are helping them with that.
Do you find that there's some sort of stigma still attached to going to the VA, that is something wrong with you if you have to go to the VA?
I believe there are some. There are some still. And I think, too, it depends on their experience from their military service. Of course, in recent years, we've heard of things that have happened in the VA that kind of veterans shy away from even wanting to approach the VA medical centers. So there's a variety of reasons, but I think there's still some there.
Yeah, well, there seems to be a multitude of horror stories that come out every year. As to their validity, I'm not sure, but I have personally witnessed some of them, and I can understand a reluctance on the part of the veteran to actually go to the VA, but personally, I've been treated well by the VA. They've taken care of my health issues and essentially kept me alive. And I did not go to the VA for 15 years because of some of the reasons we just discussed. But finally it got to the point where I knew I needed to do something. And somebody had suggested, well, you're a veteran, you're honorably discharged, you should go to the VA, and it was the best move I ever made. How does a typical veteran know about you?
We have Kentucky Department of Veteran Affairs has a website. Veterans can go, that have access to the internet can go to veterans.ky.gov, and it will show the state of Kentucky broken down into regions. And the veteran looks in the area that they live, and it will give the name and the contact information for that service officer that covers that area. So here in the Paducah, my main office is at the VA clinic here in Paducah. So a lot of veterans learn about me coming in and seeing doctors at the clinic, and then, or up at Marion, and I get referrals. They get referred to me that way, word of mouth, public announcements. We send out monthly announcements about when our office hours are and where our location is. In this region of the state, I do not travel. Like I said, my main office is in the Paducah CBOC here, the clinic here, VA clinic. And then I cover also Marshall, Livingston, Carlisle, and Ballard counties, but they all come in to me. There are some exceptions. If there is a veteran or a surviving spouse that is in assisted living or a nursing home and they can't get to me, or it's very difficult for anyone to help them get to me, I will talk to the family, I will talk to the individual, and usually I will make a home visit to those folks.
So if a person walked in from, say, another county that you don't normally operate out of, would they still be accepted, or would you refer them to someone else?
I would see them. You know, if they're there and they're needing assistance and have questions, I will do what I can to assist them while they're there. If they are in another one of my coworkers' areas and it's going to be a while before they get back to Paducah, that individual, then I may refer them, you know, say, this is what you need to take to Ron McClure in Mayfield. Or a coworker, I see some folks from the Madisonville, Hanson area, and I have a coworker up there, or Hopkinsville. I will refer them to those individuals.
One of the questions I hear asked a lot, and I know you can't be specific, but when a spouse of a veteran or a veteran dies, what time frame is there for getting the spouse benefits?
When the veteran has passed away, once the surviving spouse receives the death certificate, that's when they're, you know, they'll call me usually before they receive that, and I'll tell them to let me know when they get the death certificate, and we'll start the process of filing, you know, the claim if they're eligible for anything. A widow who, I mean, I have widows that 10 years ago, the veteran passed away. The widow never remarried, and they are just finding out through a friend that they may be eligible for widow's pension. So they contact me, and anytime, whether it's a veteran or whether it's a surviving spouse, anytime they're looking to see about VA benefits, they must have the veteran's discharge, military discharge papers to show that they served under honorable conditions and whether or not they were a wartime veteran. For a widow's pension, the veteran must have served during a wartime period, and they must meet certain financial criteria.
Is there different levels of payment?
Yes.
That's contingent upon service and where you were, what you did.
Are you referring to the widow's pension?
Yeah.
Okay. If the veteran was a wartime veteran and the widow meets the financial criteria, there are 3 different levels. The first level is the pension itself. And a surviving spouse, widow or widower, that lives independently on their own, their income cannot exceed a certain level. Once the medical issues, as they progress and the health declines, the surviving spouse may be eligible for housebound rate, the widow's pension at the housebound rate, or a widow's pension at the maximum rate, which is aid and attendance. With aid and attendance, they're requiring either assisted living or a nursing home, somebody coming into the home to help them with at least 2 of their activities of daily living, like bathing or dressing, feeding, that type of thing.
What happens if the spouse remarries? Does that change the whole outlook?
It can. There are 2 types of benefits that a surviving spouse may be eligible for. One is the widow's pension, which I just mentioned. It's income-based. So most of the time when they remarry, they're knocked out of that benefit because of the financial piece. The other, if a surviving spouse is married to a veteran, the veteran passes away due to a service-related injury or illness, and the widow is eligible for DIC, or Dependent Indemnity Compensation benefits, which is basically part of the veteran's compensation. Then if that surviving spouse remarries before they turn 57, they lose that benefit while they're married. Now, if the second marriage ends in a death or a divorce, then the surviving spouse can reapply for those benefits. If the surviving spouse waits until after they turn 57 and then at that time they remarry, they're still entitled to draw the DIC benefit, even though they've remarried.
Well, let's talk about the elephant in the room for a while. That being, what changes have occurred in the last, say, year or so that affects the veterans' benefits? Is there some type of changes in the law or anything that would?
As far as disability benefits and the survivor benefits, I cannot think of anything in particular at this time. I know that a couple of years ago, for certain veterans, there are certain medical conditions that are considered presumptive. And like, for example, our Vietnam vets, if they served with boots on ground in Vietnam or on the DMZ in Korea during a certain time period, it's presumed they were exposed to Agent Orange, and they may be eligible, they would be eligible for service-connected disability if they developed Parkinson's disease or diabetes. And several years ago, a presumptive for all military, which there are many that aren't aware of it, is Lou Gehrig's disease. Just for serving in the military, 90 days or more honorably, statistics show that veterans are at a little bit more of a risk for Lou Gehrig's disease. So if a veteran in their lifetime is diagnosed with that, if a veteran has passed away from that and leaves a surviving spouse and the surviving spouse isn't aware of it, that's a claim the surviving spouse needs to file for as well.
Now, who would make this decision? Is there a segment of the VA that
The diagnosis?
Yeah.
That would be the healthcare, the VA medical center, the providers in the healthcare system.
I hear a lot of people talking about ratings, and some will say I've got 40%, some 60, some 80. What is the purpose of that?
When a veteran files a claim for a disability, VA is going to look at the medical condition and the severity of the condition. Veterans can, the maximum that VA will pay a veteran for disabilities is 100%. And a lot of veterans will come to me and say, but I'm 210%. Why I'm only getting 100%? VA has a combined rating, and they use the combined rating to determine what the vet, along with the medical conditions and the severity of each issue, as to what the overall percentage is going to be when the veteran is awarded service connection.
So you could have more than 100%, but only get paid for 100%, is that correct?
Right. There are exceptions. You know, if you have loss of use of an arm or a leg, or you lost your eye, or you need aid in attendance, there are exceptions to the rule where you would draw more than the 100%.
Do you have anything to do with the transportation of veterans from, say, the clinic to Marion?
If a veteran comes in to me and talking about what they need to do for their claim, preparing the medical evidence and all for their claim, and they tell me they have an appointment up at Marion for something, then I refer them out to the front desk, and the DAV has transportation right from the clinic there up to Marion and back.
That's Disabled American Veterans?
Disabled American Veterans.
See. When you go to a VA hospital, how do you obtain copies of what was done, who you saw, the paperwork involved?
There is a form, and I cannot recall the form number at this moment, but it goes to release of information. And the veteran has to sign the form requesting that the VA release their medical records to them. There also, there's a way to go online if a veteran has access to the internet. They have My Healthy Vet, and they can go online and get set up that way and access records and communicating with their providers through My Healthy Vet.
I hear a lot about long wait times. It's been an issue with veterans for years. Has that been decreasing, or is it still about the same?
I have had good turnaround on my appointments. You know, I think it just depends on what the veteran is needing to see the doctor for. They have now a veteran's choice card, which if a veteran has to wait for more than 30 days and lives more than 40 miles from the nearest VA facility, the VA can contract out, fee-base out, have get veteran approved to be seen by a local provider. So what I'm hearing, though, there is a decline on the wait. They're really pushing to try and get veterans turned around, you know, in and out as quickly as they can. Like any other medical facility, I'm sure there are some delays at times, but I think they're really pushing and turning things around there.
I hear a lot also about not only wait times, but not being able to see a certain doctor within a certain time frame. Is this something that do you think this will change with the new administration?
Hard to say. Again, through Kentucky Department of Veteran Affairs, my main focus is helping with those disability claims and the pension claims. And if the veteran needs to see a medical provider, then I make sure I get them in contact with the folks that put in the request for that appointment.
What if you, on a weekend, and you can't get to Marion and you're having heart problems? Would you be able to go to a civilian hospital until?
There's the issue of whether it is considered life-threatening emergency or not, and they need to make sure someone contacts from the local hospital, contacts VA as soon as possible. so that they can get it approved and that billing will be covered.
Is there anything that we haven't touched on today that we might need to bring up?
The biggest thing is for any veteran or surviving spouse who is looking into seeing what type of benefits they may be eligible for, the most important piece of paper that they need to have is that DD 214, or back during World War II, it was a different form number, and the military discharge papers. If the family or the veteran does not have that, we can request it through e-benefits online, request it from the National Personnel Records Center in St. Louis. Sometimes the states have a military record department. Kentucky has one in Frankfurt, and if the home of record of the veteran was Kentucky, we can usually get a copy of the DD 214 from Frankfurt.
Do you work in conjunction with other service officers? I know the VFW has one and the American Legion has one. Are you all kind of form a combined effort to help the veteran?
We don't meet on we have not met on a regular basis. We do up in Marion once a month, go up there for service officer meetings. And we do try to help each other out. If anybody has questions, we refer folks to each other. So we're all out there to help the veteran and their families in any way we can. Make sure they're getting the benefits that the veteran has earned.
Well, knowing what I know about your job, which is very little, but you don't have a lot of spare time, do you?
No, and it almost doesn't pay to go on vacation.
And do you anticipate an increase in the number of applicants?
Yes, yes. How many? No idea.
Right.
But I'm sure.
Are the Iraqi veterans and Afghani veterans, are they beginning to come in and take advantage of?
We have a good number, yes. Some of them that work full-time have hard time getting in. And so if they can get in with me at least the initial time and I can get an electronic signature on them, then there's a lot we can do through email and over the phone.
Yeah. Well, I know I've talked to a lot of them, and they're of the mindset like we were. You know, I don't trust the VA. You don't even know the VA, but you don't trust them. And I think I need help, but I'm not sure. I'll tough it out. And, you know, I've learned a long time ago that toughness does not include suffering necessarily. And I tell them, you know, to get to a service officer and
yes.
let them talk to you and tell you what's available and what they can do for you.
And at that time, if they decide they don't want to pursue it, that's on them. Especially if they have family, a wife or something, it's good to double check, because if the spouse survives the veteran, there may be benefits out there for the spouse.
Yeah. Well, I think it would behoove every veteran to at least come in and check and find out what is available. Maybe it's nothing, but maybe it is something that's important, especially like you say, if you're married and have siblings and children and whatnot, that it would be important to the whole family. So have we covered everything we need to cover on this day?
Well, I'm sure there's more we could do, but
well, we
I
plan
think
on
that's
having
a
you
good
back
start.
at a later date, because there is so much to cover. And we thank you for coming to see us today, and thank you for the information you've provided. I'm sure it will be of great assistance to some of the veterans out there. And if I see any of them, I'll send them your way. And you're thinking, oh, goody.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity to be here.
Well, thank you. We appreciate you coming and sharing your work with us.
Thank you.
Welcome back to this segment of the Veteran's Voice. Due to some health issues, I'm going to be stepping down as your host and producer. And I have a new person that's going to be taking over in the coming episodes. Mr. Ronnie Waters, President, Vietnam Veterans of America, Chapter 337, Paducah, Kentucky.
That's right.
Ronnie, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I served in Vietnam, 66 and 67 at the United States Marine Corps, combat engineer. Come home and wanted to forget about it. But later in life, you start serving more because you really appreciate your veterans, your fellow veterans, and in any way that you can help them. So we're here to serve in any way we possibly can. So I'm beyond retirement, but I'm glad to help.
Well, I'm glad, and I think you do a great job, and it's with reluctance that I have to step down at this time, but I think I have to do what's best for me. I've really enjoyed it, and I appreciate all those people out there that look forward to our show and what we do and the information we provide to the veterans, because we are veterans and we're serving for our veterans, and that's our main idea, is to get information out to the veterans so that they might do benefits or some other thing.
That's right.
And any way we can serve them, and that's what our intent is. So welcome aboard. I think you do a great job, and I stand ready to help you in any way I can to come to a successful conclusion.
I'm glad to help, Michael.
Thank you, Ronnie.